Hi, and welcome to what's new in the File Manager on Commander Pro. On Commander Pro is a file manager available for Windows, macOS, and Linux. You have two versions. You have a paid version, which is the Pro version that we're going to see, but you have also a freeware version, which is on Commander Personal, that contains a bit less features. So last video, we are talking about what's new in on Commander Pro 5, 5.4. So now we'll see version 5.5, 5.6, and the latest release, which is 6.0. And let's start with what's new in on Commander Pro version 5.5. So first thing is so you have normally something called, for example, WSS Windows Linux subsystem. And when you're using the terminal, it has also a better handling of this kind of path. Also, basically, when you have icons like in your user directory, so let me go back to C and users. It doesn't cache also the icons of the different directories. Used to do it, so now it's also excluded. And also when we are caching the different icons or things like this, I'm using the file URL, which is a bit better as a cache key than what it used to be. Let's go back to where I was. Here is it. Yes, so I removed one of the panel, which was called, in other, you had something called the Mega Toolbar. It was already deprecated, and it's removed. And because basically you just have to press F9 and you have all the available command that you can easily search for it. So that's why you don't need really to have a Mega Toolbar panel, kind of panel. Now, what test was done in 5.5? Yeah, so if you do like a special command, so let's say I do like a delete of this file, it will reload the directory. It used to do like a lazy reload, but basically a lazy reload is only looking at a few files to see if it has changed or something like this. So it was not totally accurate. So I think a reload of the directory is more accurate in this case. Here I cannot demo it, but basically sometimes in the zip file time was show different, was show incorrectly when was set in a different daylight setting. So yes, so what you also have when you do a search, you have the default. Do we have it in the settings somewhere? Yes, so search file, you have the default exclude folders, but actually they were not used until you were showing these panels and then it was loaded. So this is also fixed. So also part we're talking about the settings. So let's go in the file system settings. So now the specified timeout, it used to be a very small field, so now it's a bit larger. And also this setting was not working correctly, so I think here also basically it doesn't matter if you were checking it or unchecking it, it was always checked. So now it works correctly. So I think also go to text field. Let me check what is also done here. Yeah, so here was also some improvements. So for example, when you have the button, the name was a bit better, and in the different kind of choose where you have to choose a directory, you sometimes you have open now or select or something else for this. This has also improved. check, do I have something like go to text field? Now I think this one, the help has also been improved for this dialog. And also now what you have is if I press Ctrl L and let me show you the clipboard. So maybe I can do again, go to text field. So basically it copies the location. So in this case it was already the location, but you see if I do Ctrl V, it will copy my location part. And it used to be sometimes available and sometimes not, so this is fixed. Also, the icons here in the menu has been improved. Well, yes, this case you don't see it because of some of the look and feel, but you had some look and feel which has the different colors here than in the toolbar, so this has been improved. And as always, a few smaller improvements also, and various improvements and bug in the application framework. And that was for version 5.5. So now let's move to version 5.6, which was released. So 5.5 was released in May, and 5.6 was released in August. So if I go up, you'll see that now this directory is selected. Use sometimes to work, sometimes not. So now it's working better. Let me check if I do have finding project here. Let's try maybe there. Let's go here. No, I don't have any files. Let me search somewhere else. Okay, so let's go there. Okay, I can directly open it. So maybe the other one. Yeah, so here I can, I think. So now even if I have only the word selected, and if I do go, is it this one? Find files in project, you see it will find it. I can come back, I don't have to select the whole word. And also, for example, if it has a dot comma or dot, it will be a bit smarter to try to find the correct word where the cursor is. So this has been improved. And also it doesn't do it now if it's like one or two character kind of things. So sometimes you would have, so you notice that you have syntax highlight, and it's mostly based on the extension of the file. But in case you have a text file, for example, or it cannot detect the file format, it will do a simple detection based on the content file, and then it will apply the syntax highlight for it. You have matching brackets also. Now this, you see that it works in Java in this case, but it will also work for JSON since 5.6. And now let's go also to go back to the tutorial. Do you have any image there? Sort correctly. So if I do F3, now you also have zoom auto. That is the default unless you have set it to something else before. And zoom auto, it will use fit large when the image is too large. So here the image was not big, so it was just not zooming. But if the image is way larger than your screen or something like this, it will fit into the panel. And this is also now the default zoom. And so it will not save like the zoom if you change to a new image, for example, something like this. So it will just remember it for what you set. And there's also a new zoom, and it's gonna ask for what do you want as zoom. So you can say, okay, I want 5. Check again. Can I say zoom? Okay, let's put 5.0. and it will zoom like 5 times. So then here I cannot show you, but actually the 5.6 release is a really big release if you're owning, if you're using on Commander Pro on Mac OS. So here are a few things that are done for the terminal. Let me open a terminal, but here it won't be able to see it because basically I'm just on Windows. But basically now when you have a using specific keystrokes, it knows a bit more what are the macOS keystrokes that needs to be forwarded to the system and the ones that are more related to the terminal. And also a lot of the shortcuts of keystrokes for different action has been renamed to use a meta command on macOS, which is more standard for things like copy paste or renaming and things like this. So, and also the help has been updated with this. So please look at the help sections and you'll notice. So let me go to the help. Let's see, do you have some actions? So you see that the command section is now like way more described and contains like the macOS different keys that you need to use and so on. So it's more friendly for macOS. Also, for example, the delete, go back. So macOS don't have like a delete key. It has a backspace key. So if you want to delete a file, you can now use backspace. Let me. Well, here it's on Windows, so it won't work, but at least for macOS, that's a bit better. Now, what else has been done? Yeah, also, if you add the remote files in the bookmarks, basically it would try to connect to it when you were starting the application. It would make starting the application really slow. So now the bookmarks only connect to it when you go to the location. And also some parsing when we're using top use file, it was not parsing it correctly on the Windows. So when you were using replace panel, basically it was losing some focus when it was done in a window. So now you stay in the same window when you replace a panel in a window. What else? Yeah, so if you create like a temp file, it's gonna try to also use the correct extension when you do a show for clipboard, so at least you can have the syntax highlight. You also have like an action which is copy with options, in copy names with options. So you have this dialog where you can say, okay, I don't want the extension or something like this. And then it also remembers the different options that you've set, so you don't have to type it every time you want to do it again. So something else, so let me show you. Let me go to a very deep directory. Let's go maybe this one. So here you see when you have too many directories and it skip a few of them. And now what you have with the tooltip is they are shown immediately. So as soon as my mouse goes here, it will show immediately instead of waiting like 1 or 2 seconds like it would normally be in a tooltip. So I can go there and immediately click here and go to this directory. So there was also a problem when you were removing too many panels, and this has been fixed. So as I mentioned again last time, you also many small improvements and bug fixes in on Commander and also in the application framework. And that was it for on Commander Pro version 5.6. And now let's move to this version, which is version 6.0. So yes, we have a new major version of OnCommander Pro, so this also means new major features in there, and I will not necessarily start with of them. So let me go to, for example, to directory tree. So let's can. So here in this case, we had a few cases where it was you could have an error when creating the tree, and this one has been fixed. Let me go to a new function which a panel that was already existing, which is called tree map. So let's replace this one with yeah, tree map grid. So I guess you know this one, the tree map grid that shows the different size of each subdirectories and files and so on. And now it used to have maybe you didn't see it, but you have like a progress bar if it's a big directories with a stop button. So that's two new things. And now instead of having to show thing you had before the possibility to show graph, but now they included in there, so I can change it to yeah, there's many directories, so maybe this one is not a good example. Oh, here it is. So you can have disk, or you can have horizontal bar. So as there's many files, you won't see them totally. Vertical bar, at least it's a bit easier to read, but there's many files in this directory. So and then you have also a new way which is called multi-level tree map, and you can see this is a new way to show files. You can resize it and it will only show the ones that are important, and you can click also to subdirectories, thing like this. So let me go back to where I was, and the more you expand it also, the more it will show as details. So you see now it's also show more details, and if there were more files, sometimes it would show more files in there and things like this. So then we were to see the content of your directory. Yes, so in terms of file system supported, so let me change it back to what it was, directory tree. Ooh, in a new window. Yeah. No, that's true. What I wanted to do is replace the panel to directory panel. Yeah, that's it. Okay, so yeah, in terms of file system, so what I've done is remove also Amazon S3, because now you have a new file system which is called Rclone. So Rclone is a separate project that you need to install, and that connects to different file systems. So now not only you will have access to Amazon S3 like in the previous version, but you will have access to all these different file systems. So let me basically what you need is to create using, let's take Amazon for example. So if you go to the config part of Amazon, so AWS config, this is how you can create the different S3 things. So you provide your different provider like DigitalOcean or your zone, thing like this, and basically it creates for you an alias. And based on this alias, so in this case, let's so you see it's called a remote bucket, I think something like this in this demo, but based on this alias, you can connect on Commander to this alias and do any files operation on this file system. So you can have different Amazon S3 file, but you can also have a Backbase, Cloudflare, Dropbox, to name a few. It's also support like FTP, Hadoop file system, things like this. iDrive, iCloud, also Google, I think, is there with Google Cloud Storage, Google Drive. You have many ways to access files like Oracle Object Storage, To name a few, I think you also have like, check, do I have also Microsoft? Yeah, Microsoft Azure is also there. So basically all the big providers are there. And so basically you can have access to all of this also using Ant Commander, and you just have to connect to this different remote. If you want to create one or manage one, you can go there, and then it will appear here in your list, and then you can provide a path if you want. So many new file system. So when listing the root folders, in this case here, uh, now it used to be used to have a possible error, and this has been fixed. Yes, so if you had some hidden folders, sometimes the directory were way more transparent than it should be, or even sometimes you would not see the directory. So this also has been fixed. When copying files, it's now use the GDK way of copying file, which is much faster. Also, when you are connecting to a remote directory, let's say, for example, FTP or SFTP with a password, you would have problem with breadcrumbs, and also saving the directory when you were closing and reopening the window was also problematic. So this has also been fixed. Also, when you close the window, it will also close the file system. So same thing, if you are FTP or SFTP, it will first close the file system before closing the window. And also, for example, sometimes you would start in a specific directory, but the directory would not exist. For example, you have a USB key, then you close the window and you remove your USB key, you start the Windows, and it will show an empty directory. And here you would have in the as a tooltip says this directory does not exist. So you plug in your USB key, so now the directory or the drive exists, and it would still have problem with reloading because basically it was caching the parent directory. This now also has been fixed. What else? So now you also have like a share. So let me show you. Try not to show. You have like a project, for example. Let me check again. Okay, navigate projects. So let's go somewhere here. Oh, by the way, you also have like, I think, I don't know if you go to project. Yeah, go to project, which is a new action. Oh, let me check. Maybe this one will work. Basically, it tries to find a project. Yeah, so here I am in different projects, and it notices that this is your project, so it will show like a specific window. So if you're in a specific project, like it will recognize based on the, I don't know, pom.xml or the .git directory in your root of your project, it will recognize the root of your project, so you can easily navigate the different part of your projects and go to some other directory, which is a new action. So let me also show you that this new action, which is share folder. So now you have so many access to different file system, but you also want to maybe to share either a remote file system or to want to share one of your directory or even part of your directory with a colleague. So you can like do shared directory, and you can say, okay, I want this. So this case, so you can create a username. So let's call it test can root, and you can even specify like a filter, like for example everything that contains .java. So the same filter that you would use here, you can make it read-only. So and in this case this user is active because we want to share it, and basically what it will do, it's started, and what you have is basically me show you here. Basically is a new FTP server running for what you specified over there. So let me try to do it. Yeah, so here I will put it on the side so you can see what's happening, and at the same time it will log if someone's log you, so you can easily share this with someone. Can I try to go there and let me check that network here. Oh yeah, so here is the address. Well, in this case, I know it's also the same thing as localhost. So what I'm using is FTP, port is 21, that's the default, and I was using test. So here you see it's connected, and I don't see the file. Okay, let's stop. Maybe I'm not using the correct. Okay, let me remove the filter. Never know. Okay. Yeah, so here was a problem with the filter. So here you see now I'm connected to FTP, and this is the root. In my case, I was just specifying, but basically this person has also access to the same directory that I've decided to share with someone else. And here you can see what the person is doing. So now you can not only have access, but you can also share your access with someone else in your file manager. So you also add something like show graph. Okay, so let me stop the server. It's not needed anymore. Here we go. Go back to the tutorial. I think show file size graph. Oh, in this case, I just have one selected, but now this action is deprecated because now you have what I've shown you. It's in the directory tree map panel, which is I think a bit more complete than here, so it's a bit better. Yeah, so when you are copying files, so here I don't know if I can show it quickly because it will just, so it shows the windows over there with what you're copying, and you see that it's in progress, and yes, that's too small files, so it's going too quick. But basically you have the progress file, and if you have some big file, you'll see that the name is gonna go jump from file to files and so on. So now it's much better. Basically what's happened for this progress windows when copying or doing file operation, first it will use the entire width for the progress bar, and it will only resize if the name is getting bigger. So it's gonna maybe increase in size, but basically you won't see the window jump from size to size or the progress bar getting bigger or smaller and so on. So it's way better visually. Yeah, also sometimes you would, if one panel would fail to create at the startup, it would also mess up all the other panels, and this has been fixed. Now when you start also, the default look and feel has been changed. So it used to be like native, now you have a different system. So for example, you get this kind of look and feel as default for Linux. And also now it's based on Java. So if you're using the installer for Mac, I think for Linux and for Windows, now it's including with Java 25. It's enough, I think, being Java 17. So still 17 for macOS so that it supports the older versions of macOS. And something else is now, as you're on the website, is that now you also have it online. So of course, since it's online, doesn't have access to your local file system, and not everything is working. Like a network, of course, is not working because it cannot. But at least you can show the same application, in this case online/demo.html, and at least you don't have to install it to, for example, see it. So here's a big file, but you get the principle. Is just to use. Not everything is working, like setting the file time of a file and so on. So it's really for visual help. It's not to do anything useful, but you can at least look at it online and practice a bit with it. So in this case, yeah, 6.0 and so on. And that's it for 6.0. So thank you for watching this video. And yeah, of course, you can download it and use it at this website oncommander.com. Okay, and see you next time. Bye bye.